G'day guys, in today's video I've got a Huawei P20 Lite, also known as a Nova 3E. And in this one I'm going to be replacing the damaged display on it. As you can see, we've got a crack up the top here. So that will be getting replaced and we should be all good to go from there. So to begin with, I've had it on my heat pad here, the blue heat mat, at 75 degrees Celsius. And now I'm going to use some isopropyl alcohol and a flat metal pry tool, flat thin metal pry tool, to take the back cover off. Now this one has been repaired previously, not by myself, but I believe this will probably come apart a little bit easier than what it would be if it was a brand new, fresh, untouched phone. Go. Also, because this one's been repaired before, I'm assuming it's going to be a bit messier putting it back together. Go, so we're in. Looks like a combination of glue that's been used on here to stick the back on. So I'm probably going to have to clean all this off and redo it. I'll hold it up there. We have a Phillips head screw here. And this bit here is your video connector. So let's zoom you guys in to actually get a better look at this. Now, granted, I will move it down in just a second. Just want to fully disconnect that so I can flip it over, like so. Now there is a little connector down here for your fingerprint reader. Not really, I'm going to leave that attached, as I don't believe it's really necessary to remove that. Take out one Phillips head. Take out the next. Two Phillips head screws out of the way. And I want to disconnect the fingerprint reader and the battery and the daughter board. So I'm going to use, if you have a long enough nail, you could use your nail to get under there. But I'm just going to slide this just gently under and push it up, like so. Same with the fingerprint reader, and the battery I will do by nail. All made pretty satisfying noises there, opening them up. Next I've got is the LCD connector. So it looks to be a single screw as well, also Phillips head. Undo. And do we have a hidden screw? Not that I'm seeing. There we go. And we are now off. So I'm going to disconnect that connector too. Next up, I've got to take this cover off here and the daughter board. To go one screw. Granted, the majority of these are Phillips heads. These may be out of order just because it has been opened before. Two. Now we've got a silver Phillips head. So that's about the only one of a two note is that silver one. Another black Phillips head. Another black. So excluding the silver, the rest of these screws are all of the same length. I wonder if another screw is hidden under this glue that's here. Yes, there is. So we'll take him out as well. So all those are removed. I'll grab my tweezers again and I'll dig in from the side here and bend my tweezers. Go for something a bit more rigid. So I've got a flat Phillips head screwdriver. Just lifting that up. There we go. So I'll put this out of the way too. So this here contains your vibrating motor and your loudspeaker. So vibrating motor, these two pins here are for your loudspeaker, which is downward facing. Spit out the bottom of the phone. From here I'm also going to disconnect the ribbon cable for the daughter board, the charger board. There we go, with that removed. I'll move my screws out of the way so I avoid bumping them. Now, if you're fairly cautious, you could potentially remove the battery from here, but I don't believe I'm going to need to do that. So what I'm going to use, since the front of this has been getting heated up while it's sitting here, I'm going to hold the frame and I'm going to push a flathead screwdriver through this gap here and push the screen out from the inside. Being that it has been replaced, it should come out hopefully relatively easily, but we'll soon find out. So I'm going to go like this and push, and that's coming out extremely easy for me. So from here I can just grab it. And funnily enough, it has separated the silver reflection has stayed. So we go like this. There's the branding for the aftermarket mob on there. Now one thing to do note, don't go gung-ho and throw away your old screen, as there is one thing we do need to transfer. If you have a look at my new one here, compared to the old one, there's a small little filter. Poke here, we're going through. So do make sure you retain your speaker grill from the old phone. Just going to push back, and here we have it right here. One mesh speaker grill. So make sure you transplant that to your new phone or your new display. Transplanting it should be very straightforward. Like so. Right here. So now with the old screen fully removed, this particular one I'm going to have to prep it a fair bit just because it has been repaired once before. So I need to remove the factory glue and the aftermarket glue that is now on here. So what I'm going to use for that is just a flat Phillips head screwdriver. Very small one, as I said, very small. I am going to also use a thin metal scraper, like that. And I'm just going to go around the outer perimeter. I'll start with the larger one for now. Now you do have to be careful of pushing too hard against the sidewall, as it is only plastic, so it does like to break. And then you end up with a big gouge in the side of it, which doesn't look too pretty. Now you do need to use the most care up the top here, just because you have a high chance of damaging the proximity sensor and also your front-facing speaker. And most of this glue is being fairly stubborn and not actually wanting to leave. There is also a little sensor right here. Very difficult to see it in the current lighting. About here there's a small speck, so I'm not sure if that's an ambient light sensor as well or what its actual purpose is for. But being on the replacement screen, you can see a small speck just here. So basically, not to cause any issues, you try and use a minimal amount of glue in that location. Or else you may have dramas later on with the phone. But you really don't want to have to do this job twice. Well, then again, most jobs you don't want to do twice. Another method is using your thumb, just sliding it. That usually binds it up and takes it off pretty well. Granted, you may get blisters from doing that, depending how much you have to do that. Also, the toothbrush, I like using it. It seems to get rid of most other bits of crap and potential glass shards that get stuck on the display itself. Now I'm going to flip it over and just do the back as well, prior to installing the screen. So hopefully your back cover has a lot less glue than mine does, since this is a re-repair. The factory glue normally goes reasonably well. There we go. Getting rid of most of the junk. Do be careful near the battery, as a punctured battery usually ends in a fair bit of flames and probably a dead phone afterwards, as they do like to combust when they're penetrated. There we go. Now I'm mostly happy with this. So what I'm going to do beforehand is I'm going to put some tempered glass on here as well. Didn't have the exact model of tempered glass for this phone. And as I say that, it's not 100% clean underneath that film. So that is a bit disappointing. So I'm going to proceed onwards to the install now. Won't worry about the tempered glass. You could either use some B7000 frame adhesive, but on this one I'm going to use some S7800 black frame glue, just to find that if it's a blackish phone overall, I usually utilise this more so. Not that the sticking properties are really that much different, but it's just personal preference. So on these particular models, since it sits in, I'm just going to follow the groove on the phone and actually glue it on the LCD itself, not the frame to begin with. So if I go along it, just work my way back and forth and spread an even amount. I am expecting this to spread onto the frame when I push it down. That is completely normal. So I don't really have an issue with that at all. So there is a little bit of cleanup required at the end. Not much, but just be aware that there is. Go work around the other side. Just got some on my other hand. Great. The biggest spot you have to be careful is up the top here, as I already mentioned about that sensor. So this side's alright. Just dabbing it on there. Put a little bit on the earpiece speaker itself to keep it held in position. And I just got some on that sensor I've been talking about. Bugger. Being the glue's still tacky, I should just be able to push it out of the way with a bit of cloth. I might even just use my flathead screwdriver. And completely cover it up. Bugger. Next stop, tissue, flathead, and swipe. So I'm going to use a little bit of isopropyl on there. Not much, just enough to hopefully wet that location. Okay. There we go, now we're visible once more. So from here I'm going to remove the film. I'm not going to be too concerned about the adhesive in that exact location. So I'll proceed on with the job. And now we're going to want to feed the ribbon cable through here. And just loosely line it up. And then work your way around, pushing it in, like so. And once you got it nice and relatively flush all the way around, I'm going to eventually put some lacquer bands on here to hold it. For now I'm going to push it back down, like so. Connect up the LCD connector. And I'll leave the battery disconnected, but I'm going to connect up everything else from here. So I'll connect up the daughter board connector, click it into position. Next up the top here, same principle. There we go. And now I'm going to reinstall the vibrating motor and loudspeak. There we go. Now I'm going to turn my heat off my heat pad now. And I'm also going to install the silver screw first, which goes right here. Next up is just the wave of black screws, which don't be too concerned where they're going, as they're all the same length and same style. There's one thing I like about some of the Chinese phones is one screw fits all. Next screw. Now I did forget, I did have the fun of removing the screw on my back cover, or the glue from my back cover. But I will put on the other video connector here, if I can actually pick it up. There we go. Get that out of the way. Connector's nice and clipped on. Gonna put that into a little groove down here first, and then push down. There we go. Okay, that one. Now I'm going to clean the glue off here. Same principle as the front. It's a matter of working around it. Choosing my thumb seems to be the most efficient way. My thumb's going to regret that later. So what I'm going to do here is run the same black frame adhesive just around the back cover. Be a bit more generous this time. Granted, it probably means the next person to repair it, if you use a stupid amount of glue, is not going to have a fun time. And if you're dealing with the same clientele all the time, that sorry person's probably going to be you. So only put down the amount of glue that you can stand removing. See some places they absolutely drench the thing in adhesive that it was like it was never expected to be opened again, and it's just terrible to remove. I find this stuff here at least becomes kind of semi-rubbery, so it does become usually pretty straightforward to remove. So now from here we've got to reconnect our fingerprint scanner. So fold that over. And I'm trying to connect to a battery connector. There we go. So I've connected to here. You can kind of loosely get them there and wobble them a bit, and they tend to connect up from there. Next up, reconnect your battery. Then we're on the home stretch. Connected, connected, connected. Connected down here. And we need to put this under a little groove up the top there. There's a couple of arrows indicating that. Same with over the side here. So I might do that one first. It's been a bit stubborn. Slide that into the groove. There we go. That fits much better. Screw. Screw. Now I've missed one screw down the bottom here, so I'll just quickly put that in. There. Just near the loudspeaker. Then from here, we should be right to flip it over. Wiggle it into position. And from there, you should have been able to successfully replace the display on your Huawei Nova 3E, or in some regions known as the P20 Lite. Hope this helps you guys, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.